Well, Shabbat Shalom. Greetings, glory, and honor to the Most High Father Yah, the God of the Father of the Israelite nation, the scattered nation, uh, the creator of heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, whose spirit inspired Hebrew Israelite prophets to write the words of this book. The God and Father of the Messiah, Yahweh Shah, who Father Yah have set forth as his word made flesh, who is also the prophet through whom Father speaks to his nation, his people. Also now, the high priest of his people to remove sin from his people. And finally, to soon return as king of the planet Earth to overthrow all of Babylon. Glory and honor to their names, Father Yah and Messiah Yahweh Shah. Greetings to the 12 tribes, Shabbat Shalom, who are scattered throughout the earth according to the word of his prophets, Yah's Hebrew Israelite prophets of the Bible. And now awakening, among whom is the 144,000, who are the forerunners of the return of Messiah, whose return is so close we can see it. Think about that. Greetings. And to the precious Gentiles who in these last years of Babylon's existence have come to the truth in Messiah of perfect righteousness from Father Yah. Greetings. Greetings to the chat, to Daniel's family, Hebrew is Rhonda, Isha Shama and husband, Brother Naviska 23, Yakoba Ban Israel, Superstar, Brother Imana Bakash, Brother Gary Joseph, Brother Ruel, Brother Yah Free Manny, Brother Stephen Kelly, Akawan Banya. Greetings to all of you. We have been studying the prophecies of Daniel, and very deep and powerful prophecies they are. Only one way. We were in Daniel chapter 7. We finished Daniel chapter 7. And now we're going to begin another very powerful, important chapter, Daniel chapter 8. Now, we're talking about, at this point, the little horn, okay? And when we're dealing with the little horn, it's important that, well, I think it's important. I believe it's important. I'm impressed that's important, that we understand what that means. Little horn. Okay, so the word horn in the Hebrew, is 7162. It is the word karan for horn. Now, it usually means power. It's associated with power and authority. The word horn is associated with power and authority. Now, if this little horn, and what we read, and let's take a look in Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel 7. And let's look at what we read in Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to start at verse 23 and go from verse 23 down to verse 25. Daniel chapter 7 from verse 23 to verse 25. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand unto a time and times and the dividing of time. Now, brethren, if horn is power, and every place you look pretty much in the Old Testament is 7162, horn is power. And this horn is no different. It's little 7162. if it's a horn is power, and this is a little horn, right? It's not a big horn, it's a little horn, a small horn. Why is it doing these things? How is it possible that it says it shall devour the whole earth and shall tread it down and break it in pieces? It shall rise after the 10 kings and shall be diverse and subdue 3 kings and shall speak great words against the Most High. Wear out the saints of the Most High and think to change times and law. If it's a little horn, why does the Bible describe it as little if it's doing all of that? You ever think about that? Why does the Bible describe this horn that seems to be able to subdue and control the whole planet Earth? Why does it describe it as a little horn? Well, let's think about that. First, let's take a look again. And I see y'all saying things that are true, but first, let's take a look in Revelation chapter 13 again. Let's go back to 13 of Revelation. Revelation 13. And let's go from verse 1 down to verse 4. And especially this time, let's look at verse 2, because some of y'all are saying it. It's very true what you're saying. And it's very true. Everything you're saying is very true. Short time. It's religious. It's power from the beast. All true. All true. Let's sum it all up. Okay. I praise the Most High for his saints that are reading his word. That is the greatest thing, that if I accomplish anything in the ministry for the Father Yah, if I can be an influence to help you read your Bible, and I mean read the whole thing, if I can be an influence to help you do that, then my job is fulfilled. Okay, but let's take a look here. Revelation chapter 13 from verse 1 down to verse 4. Revelation chapter 13 from verse 1 down to verse 4. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So obviously it's got 10 horns now, 10 points of power. Okay. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So you guys are absolutely right. So the reason this horn, though it be a little horn, is able to exercise such power is because first, it's getting power and authority from the dragon. Y'all said that, and it's true. And its philosophy is the basis, the foundation, the head apostle of the dragon. In fact, that's a good term for it, I have to say. So this little horn is the top apostle of the dragon. It's his top disciple, because it is, and it says, all the world worship the dragon and they worship the beast. Why? Because you're worshiping the dragon if you are an adherent to his belief system. Does that make sense, brethren? So like saying the people that believed the Messiah were called disciples of the way, because Messiah said he was the way. So they were disciples of the way and followers of Father Yah. Well, if you are, and why is that? Because you believe the Messiah's words and you are following his Father and you believe he came from his Father. That makes sense, y'all? So now, just the end. So if you believe that man can live forever in disobedience to Father Yah, if you believe that man can be his own God, you are worshiping the dragon. You don't have to mouth the words Lucifer to be worshiping him. You just have to be a follower of his policies, of his teachings. And that's why all the world worship the beast and worship the dragon, because this is the number one apostle of man-made religion. The number one pusher. the one that controls all others, and who has disciples not only in the religious world, but as we talked about earlier this week, in government, in that every secret agency is modeled after the original secret agency, which is the Jesuit order. Okay, so that all religions that are man-made come from this entity right here. Remember what the Bible says is the mother of harlots. Not only that, let's take a look at James real quick. James chapter 3. James chapter 3. Okay, watch this. James chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. James chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. And I'm going to go from verse 1 down to verse 8. James chapter 3, from verse 1 to verse 8. Watch carefully. Remember now the little horn, okay? My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able to bridle the whole body. So if you're able to control what you say, you have a great opportunity to control everything you do. And how do we do that? Certainly, I can't do it myself. No, we do it by the power of the Father's Spirit, prompting us to keep our mouths shut when it's time to shut up. Took me a long time to begin to understand that. I'm still learning. Verse 3, behold, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about the whole body. See, a little thing turns the whole horse. Behold, also, the ships which, though they be so great, are driven of fierce winds, yet they are turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. So you can see it's examples of large things being controlled by a little thing. Even so, the tongue is a little member, and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beast, of birds, of serpents, and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. So, the dragon starts off, how did he start off with Eve? Did he touch her? Some people try to say he had sex with her. That's not what the Bible tells us. The Bible tells us he spoke to her. He communicated with her, and she connected with him in communication. Y'all catching me? He spoke to her, he communicated with her, and she connected with him in a communication. Isn't that how all deception starts, though? You're being deceived by some sort of medium of communication that's being it's reaching you, right? So the word of the Father reaches us by that communication of his Spirit. Well, now the word of the enemy and words in general. How many times have y'all been emotionally charged by somebody saying something? For good or for bad? How many times, think about it, have you been emotionally charged by something somebody communicated to you? It could be some information. It could be some disrespect. It could be some rumor. It could be something. Somebody communicated to you, and you were affected by that communication. Well then, imagine the power of the devil and his communication to people without the protection of Father Yah. You see, brethren, the devil communicated with the Messiah. Do you remember? Messiah and the devil communicated. Okay, let's take a look at that. The devil's tongue communicated with the Messiah. Well, how did the Messiah deal with the communication from the devil? How did he deal with that communication? Let's take a look. Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4, beginning at verse 1. Matthew chapter 4, beginning at verse 1. Then was Yahushua led of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, here it is, he said, if thou be the Son of Yah, command that these stones be made bread. So now he's communicating with the Messiah. The Messiah is physically weak because he hasn't eaten in 40 days. He's hungry. And so here comes the tempter, Satan, while the Messiah is weak, and he communicates with the Messiah. And we know his communication is evil. Right? Okay. What did the Messiah answer? Verse 4. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yah. So the communication with the devil was what? The Father's word. It is written. The communication is the Father's word. Now let's go back to Eve for a second. Satan said, did not Yah say you can eat of every tree of the garden? She started off with, Yah said we could eat all the trees of the garden, but the tree that's in the midst of the garden, he said, you shall not eat of it lest ye die. So she responded with the command of the Father. Then came the follow-up. Ye shall not surely die. And there was no response from Eve. What does that tell you? She was receiving that. She was receiving that. You shall not surely die. That's the first lie told. You shall not surely die. She's receiving that. Then he followed up, understanding she was receiving it. He said, for Yah doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. She didn't say anything else. She was what? She was receiving that. Let's go back to Matthew now. Verse 5. Then the devil taketh him up into a holy city and setteth him on the pinnacle of the temple and said unto him, if thou be the Son of Yah, cast thyself down. For it is written, he shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against the stone. He was misquoting Psalm 91. It actually says, he shall give his angel charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. But Messiah did not argue with Satan on this point. Instead, he said in verse 7, and Yahushua said unto him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Most High, Yahweh thy Most High. So Messiah was standing on the word of the Father. Let me explain something to you before we go to the last one, brethren. The only hope we have, and I know this is going to sound crazy to people, but the only hope you have is standing on this word. And I mean, standing on it. There's all kinds of temptations in all kinds of forms to get you away from that. That's what Satan was telling Eve, to get her away from obedience to the word, get her away from standing on the word. Okay? You must stand on the word of your Father. That's what this Bible represents. The word of your Father. You must also understand that like Eve, like Messiah, Satan is permitted to talk to you. He's permitted to have communication with you. And it's up to you and me to believe Father's word. So again, I tell you, He is allowed to put thoughts in your mind. If you have got up this morning and you prayed to your Father in the name of the Messiah, and you asked your Father to guide your steps, you asked him for his spirit to take over your life. If something offensive to that comes into your thought spirit, you should know it did not come from you. It's your enemy being permitted to talk to you, to suggest things to you. That's what he did with Eve. He suggested. That's what he did with Messiah. That is why the little horn has power. It comes, as we saw, his power, his seat, and his authority come directly from Satan. And so he's able to communicate and lie and speak words against the Most High with nobody really understanding that he's speaking against the Father. And everybody looking at him like he is holy, even calling him Holy Father. Can you imagine? Now that you know the word, you understand now how that sounds. For you to be calling a sinner like you, Holy Father. But you see, the whole earth is deceived by the tongue of this little horn and by his words of man's philosophy, which is the whole religious system. That is also why, if you stick to this book and you refuse to come off of this book, even when you sin, remember now, we all lose battles. But when you go back to your Father in repentance, when you apologize for the wrongs you've done, your sins are washed away and you get a clean slate. And you get to go back to that temptation. Father will give you again, bring you back. And when you pass, that's what is written in your book. Pass. And once you pass, you'll find yourself with power to pass again. One day at a time. Verse 8. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them. And he said unto them, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then said Yahweh unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship Yahweh thy most high, and him only shalt thou serve. So in these things we see the temptations of Satan. The first temptation was in how you indulge yourself. He tries to tempt you in indulging yourself in something to the satisfying of your flesh. The second thing he says, oh, so you're supposed to be a follower of the Most High. Well, I challenge you to do this or do that. No, we don't need to prove to anybody anything. That's why I say debates are useless. Debates over religion especially are useless. Because what are you doing? You're challenging each other on what you believe. Stand on the word of the Most High. Somebody asks you why, you're convicted. That's all you need to answer. You're convicted in your own spirit. They can laugh or do whatever they want. You're convicted. Period. And if they say, well, this is what I do, you say, good for you. Good for you. Go on, brother. Good for you. No need to argue and debate. Okay? The last one, I'll give you all kinds of riches and glory and power. Just follow me and do what I say. That's another word for worship me. Follow me and do what I say. Just listen to me and do what I say, and I'll give you all the power and glory. I'll make your name great. I'll make people worship you. I'll make you star. Just do what I say. Anybody ever tell you that? Just do what I say. Trust me, just do what I say. Anybody ever tell you that? Hey, just do what I say. Trust me on this. Trust me on it. Beware if it's not the word of the Father, y'all. Okay? Beware if it's not the word of the Father. That's the only word we can trust, especially now as we know we're down the hallway from the end of all of this. And we know demoniacs existing and getting greater in power. You can see it. And we know all kinds of corruption in all areas of society. We just talked about 85,000 children that they just found out about. That's the tip of the iceberg of the child abuse going on in the United States of America. And you know, and I know that the child abuse and child pornography industry is a multiple billion-dollar industry. Anything that's making people billions of dollars, brothers and sisters, ain't just the guy down the street doing it by himself. You understand? If it's making billions of dollars, brothers and sisters, that means somebody is getting money. Let's say they're working for their money, whatever they're doing, and they're spending it on child molestation, child pornography, child prostitution, sex slavery. They're spending their money to get this, and somebody is getting them billions of dollars. It's a lot of people. And you know, honestly, I've had people come on my next channel and get mad at me for saying the things that I say. And you know what that tells me, right? What does that tell you? You shouldn't be saying stuff like that. Who are you to judge? I've had people come on my channel and say that. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? You know what it tells me? They're guilty. Yeah, it tells me they're guilty. You just gave yourself away. Couldn't help yourself. You understand? Because it's billions of dollars. That's a lot of people, man. It's a lot of people. Okay. And that also, I'm just illustrating the condition, the current condition of the earth. Okay. I'm just illustrating the current condition of the earth. And in saying so, you and I now understand why the Father is showing us how close it is to being over. How close it is to being over. Okay. And in the meantime, people are following the little horn. Not only is it little because of everything we just went over, brethren, but go back to Daniel 7 for one more point on this, and then we'll go into Daniel 8. One more point on this, and we'll go into Daniel 8. But let's go back to Daniel 7. One more point. Notice what it says in verse 25. Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. Notice what it says. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Notice, so he tried, and the Bible in Daniel tells you this in a couple of places, but basically this little horn is trying to be the Most High, right? So he's trying to be the big horn, but the Bible's calling him a little horn. It's almost like the Most High saying, oh, you think you're a God? Not only are you just a man, you're a little man. You know what I'm saying? Not only are you just a man, you're a little man. You're trying to be the Most High. And notice it says you think to change times and laws. And that's why, brethren, the world will not understand what we understand in terms of the meaning of the feast. They won't even understand when we say the 7th month and the 15th day of the month. They'll be looking at July 15th. You hear what I'm saying? They'll be looking at July 15th. They won't understand. Because he thinks to change times and laws. So if we say the 15th day of the 7th month, they're looking for July 15th. If we say the 7th month the first day of the month, they're looking for July 1st. If we say the beginning of the year, they're looking at January 1st. Because he thinks to change times and laws. Yeah. All right. So now we understand a little more now about the little horn. The Most High is getting ready to show us some more. But before we do one more thing, so let's just review. So we saw the 4 beasts. We saw the 4 metals in the statue of Daniel 2. Then we saw the 4 beasts. And we saw the 4th beast, right? We saw the 4th beast. And we saw that that 4th beast had 10 horns. And then a little horn came, right? So just as a review, we know the beasts are Babylon, Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, and then the Romans, right? Now, the Romans started off with 10 divisions until it changed into the Holy Roman Empire. And at that point, then it had 7. Now, we know in the last iteration of the Holy Roman Empire, which we saw in Revelation 13, it goes back to 10. And now we understand why it goes back to 10. Because aside from the original 7 that you got in Europe, which is the children of Yafet's centerpiece, that's the center of the earth for the children of Yafet, right? I mean, everybody would understand that. In terms of the children of Yafet, the centerpiece of, like people would say, if they call Africa what? They call Africa the motherland, right? Why do they call it the motherland? Because we're saying that's where all people came from, but especially people that are of melanated people, we're saying that's where they originated from. That's why they call Africa the motherland. Well, the motherland for the children of Yafet is Europe, right? That's the centerpiece of the earth for them. That makes sense to y'all? So the original 10 horns took place in Europe. And then the 7 that was left, of course, was in Europe. And the 3 that took the place of the ones that was plucked up are children of Yafet. Japan, Canada, and the United States. They're controlled by children of Yafet. They're controlled and discovered by children of Yafet. Okay? So you had other of Yafet's children go to these other lands, take over, and then they come and they're all part of the motherland of Yafet. And that's why we understand, of course, according to all of this that we're reading, that the beast, that the powers of the end of the earth time, that the woman that rideth the beast, that all of these are centered in the land of Europe and the children of Yafet. Okay, we understand that. And that's why, again, one of the things of the children of Yafet that hurt, where they hurt themselves, is in this point. I talked to this man up the street from me back on Thanksgiving, and he was telling me he thinks that the United States are the children of Ephraim, Caucasian. And I said to him, that's impossible. And he said, why? I said, you and your people come from Europe. Of Noah's children, that's Yafet. And he had never thought about it like that. He had never thought about that. It never came to him that he's European and that's where Yafet's children was, not Shem. Never came to him. And because of the Eurocentric bias, they are blinded from the truth. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So because of the Eurocentric bias, it blinds them to the truth. Because what we're being shown in the word of the Most High is Ham first, and then 3 Yafets. That's your hand. If you had cards, you'd have a Ham and 3 Yafets. That's what you're shown. Okay? And even the children that are claiming to be Israel is really Yafet dwelling in Shem's tent. Okay, so that is why they hurt themselves. Really, they hurt themselves in this way because they're blinded by the power they have received, which blinds all people, including Ham, including anybody. But power blinds you because we can't handle it. But if you have 2 millennium of power and you can't see that really you're the centerpiece of the evil. Can't see it. And if I was, what I'm saying right now, if an unbelieving children of Yafet were to hear me, they'd think I was crazy. But yet we're seeing it. Okay, Greece is Japhet. Persia, Medes is Japhet. And of course, Rome is Japhet. All three. And there are even some of them that understand that the Vatican is the centerpiece of the whore, but they can't put themselves as part of that family. Isn't that crazy though? They can't put themselves as part of that family. They don't see that. Even when I was SDA, we would all, and I remember the day I stood, when I first awakened to this point, I stood in front of a group of SDAs and I said, all organized Christian churches are part of the whore. And the man in the congregation said, except the SDAs. And I said, no, including the SDAs. And there was a gasp. Because they would not understand that they themselves are part of the whore. Okay? That's what I'm saying. It's so, and so when you have a Eurocentric thought process in the Bible, you're not going to get it. You're just not going to get it at all. Okay? You're not going to get it. Your eyes will be closed, blinded. Okay? But when you wake up, even if children Yafet, which we have seen, like we see like brothers here, wake up, them blinders come off. And you see it. And it's not pretty. But you see the truth, though. No, it's not pretty, but you see the truth. You see what I'm saying, though? They went, man, all of a sudden, man, I'm a troublemaker. Oh, man. One guy actually put his hands on me, man. And it was, and I knew what he was doing. He was trying to put his hands on me. And then what happened later on, his wife bore witness in front of a whole bunch of people. He hit my husband. When everybody saw the man hit me, and I went back like this because I knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to cause me to smack the mess out of him. And while I was tempted, I backed up like this. And she said, he attacked my husband. And I said, see what happens, y'all? And I thought to myself, this ain't nothing compared to what's coming. Because they ain't seen nothing yet. I wasn't even in the truth I'm in now. If what I said then bothered them, they don't even want to know. That's what I'm saying. It blinds you from the truth. That's what I'm saying. That's right, Angry. Ooh, I was like, ooh. And I knew he was trying to do. He kept saying, hitting me in my stomach. Let's take this outside. Boom, boom. And I was like, I said, I backed up like that. And then, some brothers came and got between us. And she's like, he attacked my husband. Like, okay. And I saw what was up. They wanted me to him so they can call the police because that's all, in this society, even if a child of your Yafet hits you, when you blast him back, you go into jail and you could die. Okay. I knew that. I was conscious enough to know that. Praise the Most High. But yeah. Oh man, I could tell y'all some stories. But anyway, let's go. Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. Okay. So now, beginning at verse 1. Daniel 8, beginning at verse 1. We're going to take a closer look, a more very microscopic look at the little horn. Okay. Daniel chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. So now again, we stress the point here. Daniel received chapter 7 and 8 before the events of chapter 5. So here in chapter 5, we see Belshazzar is slain. But in chapter 8 is his 3rd year. So Daniel received the visions of chapter 7 and 8 and before what we saw in chapter 5. So Daniel had already received chapter 2 when Nebuchadnezzar was king. Now, when his grandson became king, he received 7 and 8. And then the events of chapter 5 happened. So when he walked into that palace that night and saw the writing on the wall, he already knew what it was all about. He already knew, because as we're going to read here in Daniel chapter 8. So we see here, he receives this vision in the 3rd year of Belshazzar, which is Nebuchadnezzar's grandson. Verse 2. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river Ulai. Now, what you're going to see is 2 visions of Daniel, chapter 8 and chapter 10, take place with him by a river. I don't know why, but that's how the Most High did it here. So he's by a river. This time he's by Ulai, one of the rivers in one of the provinces of Babylon, Elam. Verse 3. And I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So he's by the river, and he sees a ram. That's an animal. And the ram had 2 horns, and apparently he saw the horns grow up out the ram's head. And they were 2. But he said the first one grew, and then he said the second one grew up, but it grew up higher than the first. So he had a ram with 2 horns. They were coming up in his head. One was higher than the other. He said but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. Okay. Y'all saw that part? Stay with me now, because you're gonna need this. Okay. So he's by the river Ulai. He sees a ram. He sees the ram, and he sees 2 horns come up out the ram's head. 2 horns, 2 points of what? Power come up out the ram's head. But the first one came up, but then the second horn came up last, but it was higher than the first. Now, why is that? Because it was Medes and Persians. And if you recall from chapter 5, the first power to take Babylon was the Medes. So the Medes came first, but after them, they shared power with the Persians. And so you had, in fact, the book of Esther is the book where King Ahasuerus marries Esther, and Ahasuerus is king of Persia. So you had the Medes first, then you had the Persians. Does that make sense, y'all? So you had Cyrus the Mede take the kingdom first, but Cyrus the Persian later told the Israelites, go and rebuild the temple. Okay, so you had the Medes first, and then you had the Persians. Yeah, the Persians were richer and more powerful. They had more money. Okay. So, now verse 4. So we see that the ram is the Medes and the Persians. Verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Now, let's not go away from this real quick. I want you to notice something here. It only named 3 directions. Did you notice that? It said, I saw the ram pushing. He was pushing west, he was pushing north, and he was pushing south. What are we missing? He was pushing west, he was pushing north, and he was pushing south. We're missing east. Why are we missing east? Because that is where he was coming from. Does that make sense? So he came from the east, and he's pushing north and west and south. So he's coming from the direction of the rising of the sun, and he's pushing north and west and south. Okay, y'all got that part so far? So that's why you don't see east, because he's coming from the east. It's going to come into play again in a few verses, but I wanted y'all to see that from the start. So the Medes and the Persians came and attacked everyone from their position east. Okay, verse 5. And notice it said at the end of verse 4, it says, he did according to his will and became great. Remember that. He did according to his will and became great. Okay, verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So now as the ram came from the east and was pushing west, it was pushing north and was pushing south and became great and did his own will, there came a goat. And this goat had one horn, one big horn in his head, and he was coming from the west. And he was coming so fast, the Bible says he didn't even touch the ground. It's like in football. You ever see in football where a guy is flying through the air to make a tackle? He's running, he gets a running head start, then he's flying and he rams into the guy that he's going to tackle, flying through the air because he's got his head of steam up, boom, and he cut. That's what was going on here. This goat was coming so fast, he wasn't even touching the ground anymore. He was moving so fast, coming from the west. Verse 6, and he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him in the fury of his power. So he had a collision with the ram. The ram was standing still after it had done its will and became great. But this goat came with full power and a giant horn from the west and smashed it. What happened? Verse 7. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him. Choler is anger. Choler is a word for anger and rage. Anger and rage. That's what choler is. So he said he was moved with rage or choler against him and smote the ram and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. So here come the goat after the ram with one notable horn between his eyes. What kingdom came after the Medes and the Persians, yo? We know Babylon not even mentioned here because we know Belshazzar was gone, right? But so then came the Medes and the Persians, then came the Greeks. Okay, tell me, what is the notable horn from the Greek Empire that established the Greek Empire? The power. Who is the power of the Greek Empire that established the Greek Empire? And he was mean, and he was aggressive. Alexander, that's right. He was so mean and aggressive, Alexander, that he changed the name of Kemet to Alexandria. That's when they discovered. That's when they discovered Egypt. That's when they discovered it. Okay. And in fact, I read where Alexander was purposely trying to get the Greek seed in every place he took over. He was trying to impregnate as many local, not him personally, but him and his people, as many local women as he could to make the whole seed Greek. You think that stopped? No. Anyway, let's continue. Verse 8. Okay. So the goat came at the ram, destroyed it, stomped it, had no mercy on it, was moved with rage against it. Yeah, he was one of the first with the discovery technique, exactly. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great. So we saw that the ram was great, but the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Let's stop here. So the first one was great. The second one was very great. Now, why was one greater than the other? Well, brethren, the more geographic territory you have, the greater your kingdom. Does that make sense? So if I have an island, if I have one small island, am I greater than somebody that controls a continent? Right? You understand what I'm saying? So if I might have one small island, I might control Jamaica, but the person that controls all North America is greater than me. You understand? So that's why the first one, the Medes and the Persians, and the Bible tells us that Ahasuerus had 120 provinces, but he was a bad man. But apparently Alexander was an even badder man and took bigger land than did the Medes and the Persians. Okay, so now he was very great. And then he says the little horn was broken. And then 4 horns came up in this place, and it said toward the 4 winds of heaven. So now Alexander the Great is no longer great. He's just no longer. He dies, and he has 4 generals: Seleucus, Ptolemy, Cassandra, and I forgot the other one. Seleucus, Ptolemy, Cassandra, and I forgot the other one. But anyway, the 4 generals divide up the kingdom. Seleucus takes the north, Ptolemy takes the south, Cassandra takes one, and then another one take the other one. I can't remember. Seleucus or something like that. Seleucus, something like that. So you had Ptolemy, Seleucus, Seleucus, and Cassandra. They divided it up. Okay, so you had north, south, east, and west. But Seleucus, verse 9, Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. So out of Seleucus came the little horn. So wait, why didn't it mention the Roman Empire like before the Holy Roman? And why go straight to the little horn? Because you see, even the Roman Empire came out of the Seleucus territory. It was out of Seleucus. That's where the Roman Empire came from, out of Seleucus. And so then when it changed to the Holy Roman Empire, that was the little horn. Okay, makes sense? So you had the Roman Empire really came out of Seleucus, which is the 4th kingdom of Greece. And then out of that came the little horn. Okay, and it said it waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. The pleasant land was Israel. That's in the west. So it waxed exceeding great toward the west, toward the south, and toward the east. That means, and as the Bible told us, it said it subdued the whole earth. Okay, so now you have a great one, then you had a very great one, but this one is exceeding great, and it tells you why, because it says it shall devour the whole earth and tread it down and break it in pieces, the whole earth. Okay, and that's why the Bible, when it talks about Babylon, it says, in thee is found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that are slain upon the earth. Because all of the revolutions that you see taking place on planet Earth start with the same people. See, that's why they make you think, there's just instability in Africa. There's no instability in Africa. There's instability with some help. There's no instability in Haiti. There's instability with some help. You understand? There's no country that is naturally in a revolutionary state. The revolution is created by the same people all the time. And how they do it? They always use natives. They always use Judas. Always a baby doc, Papa Doc. You understand? There's always a baby doc, a Papa Doc. There's always somebody to infiltrate that they use, a native. There's always Manuel Noriega. There's always somebody, Shah of Iran. There's always somebody, Pinocchio. There's always somebody that they can pay, that they can give millions of dollars to, that they could use to subvert the whole nation. Okay? I'm surprised people didn't catch it, though, because it's the same formula. You get a guy you get somebody that's corrupt. Then you get a guy from the ground level that gets all this money, and then he gets ammo and he takes over. And he takes over and he becomes worse in corruption than the guy before him. And then he gets a whole bunch of money from the UN or from the what do we call that? The World Bank. And then the nation's stuck with the debt. Meantime, the money that he got, he paid all his military cronies. He goes to Europe somewhere and the money's in the bank and he's living large. It's the same story. Same story in Haiti. Same story in Nigeria, same story in the Congo, same story in Ghana, same story in Iran, same story in Iraq, same story in Chile, same story in Peru, same story in Nicaragua, same story in Panama. How many times do we got to see this movie before we understand what's going on? You see, it's the same story. It follows the same script. It goes on and on and on. Exactly. Okay? It goes on and on and on. This is especially true when there's natural assets in the land they want to target. This is especially true if there's natural assets, and if there's diamonds, if there's gold, if there's some precious metal, if there's oil, if there's oil, if there's oil. This is especially true in lands that have natural resources that they want to target. Okay. You know, as I said, gold, silver, precious metals, you know, whatever, platinum, you name it, oil, you know, all of that, you will find all of a sudden instability. You see? Yeah, there's that. Okay, so now the little horn. Okay. Watch carefully these next few verses, because it's going to give us more detail, which we did get pretty good amount of detail from Daniel in chapter 7. But now you're going to get more detail. And let me ask you, just as a side, what continent on the earth has the richest natural resources on the planet? What continent on the earth has everything I just told you in abundance? That's right. And so you think it's accident that there's instability there? That's right. It has the richest soil, the richest natural resources, the richest amount of gold, diamonds, minerals, oil. It's got all of that. All of that. Okay. Everything, fruits, vegetables, everything. And yet it's the most unstable continent on the planet. How many? I don't know how many different countries are in Africa. I can't remember now. In fact, you know, you're gonna make me say. Let me see. How many different countries are there in the continent of Africa? 54. 54 countries in Africa. 54 countries. No, it's 54 is what I just did the Google search. Say 54. 54 countries in Africa. So there's 54 countries, and there was a man that was planning on creating the United States of Africa. Nkrumah. Y'all heard of Nkrumah? He was going to create the United States of Africa. He created Malcolm X. Remember, Malcolm X came back and talked about the Organization of Afro-American Unity. It was part of the Organization of Afro-Unity. They were planning on creating the United States of Africa, and they did one of the devil's ploys, and they corrupted this man. Yeah, they corrupted this man, and then eventually he died of prostate cancer at age 72. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why there's instability in these places. Yeah. Because of the assets. Now, the assets are not laying in the ground anymore. In fact, every time we open our cell phones, there's metals in our cell phones that they get from Africa. Okay. Most of the gold is in Africa. The core's fortune was made, and the diamond was made in South Africa. Because, you know, the people from the Dutch people, you know, they discovered South Africa. They discovered it. So that's why they have all the diamonds. They earned it. Anyway. Daniel chapter 8. So now let's get deeper into our buddy, the little horn. Daniel chapter 8. All right, let's start at verse 9. And let's go from verse 9 down to verse 11. From verse 9 down to verse 11. Exactly. They're going to earn what our cousin got for them. Exactly. And they have really deceived us. So I've talked to people from there, and they can't understand what the fuss is about. We really earned our place here. We earned this land. I can't believe when I hear people from Children of Yafet in South Africa say that. That just drives me crazy. Wait, we earned you what? Oh yes, I don't understand. And we earned our place and built this with our own hands. I was like, oh my gosh, man. Talk about self-deception. That's self-deception at its highest order right there. It really is self-deception at its highest order. And I told him, I said, wait, not only did your people go to Australia and take over, you went to the Americas and killed everybody and took over. You went to South Africa and killed and enslaved everybody and took over. That's not true. She said, that's not true. I said, okay, you know what? And again, I learned, okay, okay, do you? Do you? I can't understand really what it's like to live generation after generation in a dark delusion like that. No pun intended, but to live in a dark delusion, a self-delusion that you just believe this lie. That's what I'm saying, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But the thing is, I can believe that the sun won't rise tomorrow. But that is not going to stop it from coming up. I could believe the sun won't set tomorrow, but that's not going to stop it from setting, right? It's not going to stop it. So you can believe whatever delusion you want, but it's not going to stop the truth from actually taking place, and actually the actions of the truth, the overthrow of all lies is coming. And no delusion, no matter how a person is deluded, is going to stop the overthrow of lies and a system of lies that's coming. And that's why don't argue with anybody. Don't argue with them. If they want to believe the delusion, and remember the Bible said he's going to send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. That's not going to stop the truth from overthrowing the whole thing. It's not going to stop it. Okay? The system has already been declared destroyed. The word is already gone forth. Okay, so the Father has given Messiah the kingdom, and it's coming. Okay, no matter what delusions people want to believe. That's why I say don't argue with them. Okay, because it ain't gonna change nothing. It ain't gonna change nothing. Like I said, the Bible said, if you could stop the sun from rising and setting, if you could stop the stars, if you could stop the earth's seasons from coming, then I'll change what I just said I'm gonna do. He's not gonna change it. He's not gonna change it. And the thing is, honestly though, brethren, for example, if the Father said to me, the Mormon church is the only true church, is the only true people on earth, and you need to be following the Book of Mormon, you know what? I'd be moving to the Utah right now because I want the truth. You understand? If white Jesus was the God, I'd be bowing to him. I'd have pictures of white Jesus too. But I want the truth. I don't care what it is, as long as the truth. It just so happens what we know is true from the word. That's the truth. And I hate to be in a situation where I'm believing a lie because of my pride. I mean, I know I'm not perfect, but I want the truth. I want the Father to show. I ask him every day, show me the truth. Keep me on the path of truth. And he has to lead me, guide me, twist me, turn me. But I'm glad I'm headed in that direction because I don't want to be, self-deluded with truth sitting in front of you and you don't even know. You like Pilate. What is truth? And it's sitting right in front of you. Daniel chapter 8 from verse 9 to 11. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So this little horn waxed great. It said he made himself like it cast the stars to the ground. Wait, what are the stars? What are the stars? Well, we know the stars in the woman's crown in Revelation chapter 12. The stars in the woman's crown in Revelation chapter 12, she had a crown of 12 stars. What is that? It's the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay? It's the 12 tribes of Israel. What else? Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12. We're going to get there, but I want to get ahead for this point. Daniel chapter 12, verse 3. Daniel chapter 12, verse 3. What does it say? And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. So what did it say she did? It said he magnified himself to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was cast away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And then he said it cast some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground. So what? It cast down the children of Israel. And we know that's true. Scattered, one of the four powers that scattered. In fact, it was the last of the four powers that scattered Judah and Israel. Not only that, they that turn many to righteousness, it destroys they that turn people to righteousness. And we have many examples, modern examples of that. Okay, it destroys people that turn humans to righteousness. If you're a person that is seeking righteousness, if you don't have the Most High, if he's not protecting you, they will destroy you. It casts the truth, and it says it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. That is why I love this King James Bible, because William Tyndale was one of their cousins. What did they do? They first hunted him down because he was translating the Bible on the run. They hunted him down. They found him in Germany. They arrested him. They tortured him in a dungeon, publicly humiliated him, and then put him in stocks, then strangled him at the stake and burned his ashes, then took the ashes and burned them again. He's the only Bible translator that this happened to. They didn't do that to the people that did the New King James Version or the American Standard Version. They didn't do that to the people that did the New International Version or the New World Translation. They didn't do that to any of those people. No, William Tyndale, who they took 80% of this King James is his word for word translation. They took him and did that. They took him and did that. So why would they take him? Of all the other, nobody else that did translations of the Bible had to do that. They didn't do that to nobody else. Just this one brother. And he was their own cousin. What they do that to their cousin for? Exactly. You gotta have some serious hate for this man. Serious hate. And the way they did it, they paid a thief to befriend him and infiltrate his friends. And once the thief infiltrated, see that? They paid a thief to infiltrate him and infiltrate where he was, infiltrate where he was hiding, where his friends were, and how his friends were hiding him. And then he brought the Roman guard, and they came and got him. Man was pretending to be his friend. See? They always use Judas. That's right. And then they did all that to him, dragged him back to England. It was England. Dragged him back to England, brought him into a Catholic dungeon, tortured him, then brought him out and had him in stocks and people throwing eggs and stuff at his face. Then when they finished that, tortured him some more in a dungeon, then brought him to the stake. Then they didn't want him to speak before he died, so they strangled him. Then they burned him. And they were so mad, they took the ashes and bones that were left and burned that again. Why they do that? Because he translated the Bible into English. Must be something to that translation. That's the way I look at it. When I read those things, I was like, okay, now I know. That's why they got all these so-called hidden books they want you to read. People, they hiding this from you. Listen, man, read this 66 volume right here. We start in Genesis, read to Revelation. Then you can look at everything else. But read this book first. Because everybody out here is intent, without knowing, of bringing you from this book. And they're intent on getting you to read the book of Thomas, read the book of Jubilees, read the Job, read the Enoch one, read the Enoch book, or read this one and read that one. These are the hidden books. Read this one. Start in Genesis, read through the Revelation. When you finish, talk to your father, do it again. Then everything will be clear to you. He'll make everything clear. You'll be able to see through everything else. Because these are all tricks to get you off of this one. See how, to me, it just shows the desperation. It just shows the desperation to get people away from the King James Bible. That's great desperation. Yet at the same time, the King James Bible is the most widely published book in the history of the planet Earth. And yet it's the one that when you go to church, they don't want to read it. And if they do, they'll take one verse and they'll make a whole doctrine out of it. They don't encourage you to read it. Okay? There's so many distractions, so many to try to get you from this book. And the truth is right in there. Truth is right in there. See? Praise the Most High. So it waxed great, cast the host and the stars to the ground, magnified himself to the prince of the host. Who is the prince of the host, brother? Who is the prince of the host? It says magnified himself to the prince of the host. Who's the prince of the host? Now, what is a prince? Think about this. What is a prince? Prince is the son of a king. So he said he magnified himself to the prince of the host. He wanted to be, that's right. He magnified himself to be Messiah. The little horn magnified himself to take the place of Messiah. Well, let's think about it. What have they done? Some of you who have been Catholic, let me ask you, do you pray to Mary? Have you prayed to Mary? Have you prayed to Mary? Testing 1, 2, 3. If you've been a Catholic, have you prayed to Mary? Have you prayed to Mary? Okay, you know what they call it? I forgot what did they call it even, but that you prayed to Mary. Okay. You say Mary, Mother of Jesus, and you start to go from there. Isn't that correct? Well, what are you really praying to? Did the Bible ever say pray to Mary? Did the Bible ever say pray to Mary? Did it ever say that? Well, who told you to pray to Mary then? Who told you to pray to Mary? If the Bible didn't say it, who told you to do that? Where'd you get that from? I mean, it didn't say it in this book, so where'd you get that from? The church told you. The church told you to do that. That's the truth about it. The church told you to do that. That's where it came from. The church told you to do that. Okay? The church taught people to tell you pray to Mary. Right? The church. So if you're praying to Mary, you're praying to a goddess, correct? If you're praying to Mary, Holy Mary, you're praying to a goddess, which is doing what? Making another god and making a likeness of something, an idol, right? You're praying to the goddess. And then you're calling the Pope the Holy Father. And you call his priests Father Don, Father Joseph, Father whatever, correct? And then the priests are ordered. You have your priests, you have your archbishops, right? Then you have your Pope. And there's order, and all of them are called Father, except the one at the top is called Holy Father, right? The Holy Ghost is the institution of the church. Now, let's compare that to the truth. Messiah said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So therefore, if you have a whole system in place of Messiah, who he said he is the intermediary between us and the Father. He is the intercessor between us and the Father. He is the high priest of the Father. Nobody else. So if you have any institution that's telling you you have to go through this institution to be saved, now you just magnify yourself to the Prince of the Host. Does that make sense, yo? You just magnified yourself to the Prince of the Host. You just did it. And all of the Christian churches, they do that. And again, I'll tell you, did you join the church? Have you joined the church? When are you going to, I see you visiting. When are you going to join the church? Now, I don't see the Bible telling us that we need to join an institution or an organization to be saved. I don't see that. I see that we need Messiah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who is part of the nation of Israel, to be saved. That's what I read. So if you have any institution that's even implying that you need to be a member of this institution to be saved, they just did this here. They just magnified themselves to the Prince of the Host. That's what they just did. They just became a daughter of the whore. If they're trying to influence you to join their man-made organization, they're trying to get you to join with them in magnifying them to the Prince of the Host. And they are following their mother, the whore, who gets her power and authority from the dragon. I know these are very serious and sobering truths, yet they are true. And all I just said is designed to have the hearer understand that there's only one God, and he only has one high priest, and there is none other. None. No man, no institution, no woman, no one. And that is why, brethren, you have these institutions have to have ways of justifying why they exist. Because if you're following the Bible, then the Bible doesn't justify any of their existence. You don't need them. You just need the Father, and you need Messiah to represent you to the Father. That's all you need. And the Messiah say, your Father himself loveth you. And he's letting us know that when we pray to the Father, we're coming through him. He's letting us know that. But we want to pray to our Father. We don't need any intercessor except Messiah. So any denomination, any church, any religion that says, join this, is attempting to replace Messiah. And oftentimes, not just Messiah, but Father himself. As we know, Eze Thus say, I'm going to sit in the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I'm going to be like the Most High. And so all of the man-made religions in their existence are trying to do that. Even if their adherents don't know that. And I'm going to be, trying to be fair about it. There are millions of Catholics that really sincerely believe in following the Pope and the Catholic catechism, that they're following the truth. There are millions of Muslims that believe that when they pray to that block of wood out there in Saudi Arabia, they're following the truth. There are millions of Buddhists that like incense and go into their little monasteries, and they believe they're following the truth. And the Most High judges their hearts. I'm not the one to judge hearts. I can't see nobody's heart. But we have been blessed with the truth, which brings us to a higher existence to the Father, which means we really can get connected to the Father. And it's us that he's showing when Messiah is going to return. It's us that he's showing how to obtain perfection of righteousness. It's us that he's showing how do we overcome sin. He's the one showing us this because we are seeing truth. There might be other people that want this and don't know it because they are in Catholic churches. They've been raised in Muslim mosques. They've been raised in Buddhist temples. They don't know. That's right. He is bringing, exactly. He's bringing us to a higher consciousness, a higher spirit than the rest of the folks. And that's why he says, I have chosen one people. I've only chosen one. And those people that want that higher existence, that higher spirit, then you follow the truth to wherever you can get it because you're getting the higher existence. Okay. The people that are ignorant are going to suffer what ignorance suffers, unfortunately. But I believe the Most High will save a lot of people like that because they don't know any better. But for those of us that are followers of this truth, we have a special relationship with the Heavenly Father where he reveals stuff to us that he's not revealing to everybody. He's just not. He's revealing it to his people. And then you have people that are willfully, which we mentioned earlier, willfully ignorant. Well, they ain't getting nothing. They're going to get strong delusions. What they're going to get? They're going to get strong delusion. And they're going to get stronger. And especially you can watch this next presidential election. You ain't see. You thought you saw something with Donald Trump. You ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. You wait till 2024 and beyond. Watch. These people going to get stupid in this delusion. Trying to tell you. Okay, don't be surprised. The Bible shows us the whole thing. We just go to our Father and go to his word. Okay, we go to him and his word, and he will guide us and direct our paths, while the rest of the folks are either in willful ignorance or in honest ignorance. Praise the Most High. All right, I'm going to stop here for tonight. We're going to continue tomorrow in Daniel chapter 8. As you can see, and we're already covering a lot, but praise the Most High. And we'll continue at 11:30 tomorrow to continue in this truth. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Shalom, family.